What it is, everybody, and thanks for tuning in here to another episode here on the Speedbug channel. Today we're going to talk a little bit about maintenance on all of my cars and motorcycles. Who does them? Why do I do them? Why don't I have somebody else do them? Do I do all of it? What won't I do? You know, stuff like that. So let's get into it. So pretty much starting out, I do pretty much all the maintenance here on my motorcycles. Even though my background and what I do for work, I do IT for a living, but my background and also what I partially went to school for was automotive and automotive engineering with software and stuff like that. However, it's pretty straightforward. Anyone can turn wrenches, but I decided to take a different path and go more into the IT and the accounting fields and anything like that. But most importantly, my hobby is still mechanics, cars, and motorcycles. So given the fact that I pretty much know how to build or do, 90% of the things that is pertaining to all of these things, it also saves me a lot of money. We could start by looking here at the Groms and stuff like that. Now, most of the, a lot of these things I've acquired in the last 2 years or so, that you currently see here. Not that I haven't had any of the toys in the past, which the people that know me well, a lot of the Jigsters and the Hayabusas and stuff, but I also still did all of the maintenance and performance modifications for the most part myself. The ones that I couldn't do, are things that I needed to have specific tools and such like that, that I'm just not going to really be able to possess here in my big box or anything like that. Or if it's just a one-off time or one-off tool, I'm not going to spend $200 or $300 on a tool when I don't own my own professional shop. And therefore, actually, I don't like this light. Let me turn this light on. That's a little bit better. Now we got a little bit of light. Okay, so specific tools, where was I at? Oh yeah, talking about specific tools and things like that. Yeah, so like I don't have specific tools like big presses, bearing pullers and things like that, because I don't do it normally all the time. My toolbox is filled of a lot of common tools, an assortment of sockets, ratchets, extensions, fuel injection kits, vacuum tubes, and things like that. Obviously, to do most of the diagnostic work yourself and to diagnose pretty much almost anything here on a car or motorcycle. I also do have some software and stuff that I can diagnose most cars and obtain most of the information that I need to get out of the cars and the motorcycles. Now, given the fact that the motorcycles don't use like your standard OBD2 port, every manufacturer is different. There really isn't any industry standard like how there is for automotive. So some things like on the Ducatis, you have to have the Ducati plugs, the Ducati computers, and the same thing here with the BMW. And of course, the same thing here with Honda. Now, I don't really necessarily think one's worse, than the other, because there is no industry standard. If you're a Ducati dealer, you're going to have a bunch of Ducati shit. Same with BMW, and the same thing that goes over here with Honda. But all the general maintenance things, if you do a lot of preventative maintenance, you'll save yourself a lot of time and headache. Meaning, also, owning a motorcycle in the beginning is a lot of checkups and stuff like that. So your 600-mile service. Anyone that's going to have a bike is going to say your 600-mile service, I'll tell you, for the most part, it's a $300 or $400 glorified oil change. Now, there are some other things that they're going to go over, like if your bike has a chain, they're going to make sure that, because the chain is going to be new, it's definitely going to stretch. So you're going to want to tighten that up. Now, if it's a Ducati, single-sided swing arm, you have to have something to prop it up, the correct way to do it, loosen the pinch bolts here in the hub, and then, of course, to tighten it to the appropriate specifications. If a dual-sided swing arm like the 959 here, you can use a traditional style stand like how we have on the BMW, and, of course, then make the appropriate adjustments, for the motorcycle. Also, making sure that the chain is wearing correctly, the sprockets are wearing correctly. You want to check out your, make sure your tires are wearing correctly, so on and so forth. If you have a belt-driven motorcycle, such as this one over here, my XD Aval S, the belt tension tends not to move as much and become as much slack how the chains do. You still want to check it and make sure that it's not loose so that if you jump on it, it doesn't, start to rip any teeth in the cog wear or anything like that. But just overall, you have to go over the nuts and bolts. And of course, most of all, the 600-mile service obviously is going to include an oil change. Go over again all the nuts and bolts, making sure everything's wearing properly. And there's nothing that's really outstanding that should jump out to you to make sure that, hey, this is a safety hazard and you need to address this right away. That's where they also pay the Ducati techs, the Beamer techs, or Honda, Suzuki, Kawasaki, whatever. It doesn't matter. The same thing goes with the Chevy, Pontiac, or GM, or anything like that that's going to take place. Moving forward, keeping up with maintenance and things like that. If you ride your bikes and you check them, your oil changes, you go to the dealership, you got to remember, motorcycles are luxury items. They're not necessities or anything like that. They're considered recreational vehicles. You get a recreational vehicle loan. Obviously, the interest rate is going to be significantly higher than a car, even with good credit, for the most part, unless you could find a promotion on some of these, which I really have. But most of the time, they are recreational vehicles, and you're going to pay recreational service costs. So if you're an independent body shop or a mechanic shop, you're $95, $100 an hour. A dealership is going to be maybe $100, $130 an hour, depending on the type of vehicle that it's working on. And then, of course, motorcycles start maybe at $115 and then all the way up. I've seen them at $175, no question. Again, it's a recreational vehicle, and it's a luxury item. Every day, someone's not coming in to have their motorcycle worked on, because most of the time it's a toy. And your Harleys and stuff may be a little bit different, but again, if anything is OEM Harley, anyone that owns a Harley, nothing really Harley that's Harley branded is cheap. You can get aftermarket Harley shit, but it's aftermarket Harley shit. It's not OEM Harley stuff. Again, it's no different than Ducati. I'm not trying to talk shit about Harley, because I still like the Harleys and such. But again, they're still all recreational vehicles. But jumping back here into maintenance before I get too off track, is that if you take care of your bike and you do like an oil change on a motorcycle could easily cost you $150, no problem, depending on the bike, depending on how many quarts of oil it uses, depending on how much of a pain in the ass it is to do it. Now, such as something like my Hypermotard, it's pretty easy to do. You got a drain plug here at the bottom of the oil pan, boom, you got your filter all exposed, no fairings to take off, and then you fill it up. Pretty straightforward, right? You come over here to the S1000, couple bolts here, you can take off the side here, the filter's in the center, in between the headers, and it comes out. Then you come over to other bikes like the V4, where you got to take both of the bottom fairings apart just to get to the oil filter, and then you have to have special bolts to pull the filter housing out. That bike takes a little bit more time to do than some of the other bikes. The same thing with the 959. Then you come to other bikes, such as bikes like these, where they're pretty straightforward, where they have a filter screen. They really don't have an oil filter like how the other bikes do. But again, an oil filter, let's just call it around $100 to do any of that. So I have 7 motorcycles. Every single time that it needs an oil change, that's another $100. I could save it and do it for materials, which for most of the part, buy $200 worth of oil and have enough oil to do all of my motorcycles for the most part, and some oil filters, and just keep them running good. Most of the stuff, because they're also brand new, these bikes are not going to need a lot, and they don't sit very long. So one thing you always have to do is make sure that you ride them. The worst thing that they could do is sit. As they sit, fluids start to gum up, crevices don't get lubricated, and it just stirs up for a nasty pile of shit, and then your fuel injectors get clogged, your gas can turn into sludge, and anything else under the sun. So as you ride them, it keeps everything flowing, it keeps everything good. But again, preventative maintenance is key, and you have to check over everything. Your brakes, your tires, your brake fluid, clutch fluid if it's hydraulic, your exhaust, making sure nothing's coming loose. And for the most part, and don't get me wrong, there's some things and a lot of things that I haven't filmed that I have found a loose bolt here or a loose bolt there. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with the manufacturer didn't tighten it or anything like that. It just could come loose just from vibration and just from riding. And then that's more than likely a lot of the times what it is. And that's just preventative maintenance. But if I didn't look at that or notice it, you know, that part or that piece could have fallen off, could have cost me hundreds of dollars, and then it would have been a very costly repair. Diving into deeper maintenance, when you need to do something besides like an oil change, well, I will do that, and I have done that. Like take a cylinder head or something off a motorcycle, or, you know, replace the injectors, put power commanders, put full exhaust, you know, stuff like that on motorcycles. Absolutely, no problem. But when it comes down to certain things where like my bikes have warranties, actually all of them are still under warranty except I think my BMW, that one just expired. I think it expires this month. Anything that's going to have real motor work or anything like that, let it go back to the dealer. Let them do it. That way it's logged, it's serviced, they have a record of it, and let them do it. Even though I could do it, like something that was here with my throttle position, that broke about a year ago. I could have just went and got the part. It wouldn't have cost me nothing. I would have put it on, but I let them put it on. They came and got the bike, put it on, and delivered the bike back to me. No big deal. But now they have a log of it, and if other bikes have it happening to them, they can maybe issue a recall or anything like that. Just as they issued a recall, actually, when I first bought this motorcycle, about the quick shifter. And that has been fixed, and it's been flawless ever since. So if there's other things, you know, we all know in the Ducatis, like in the X-Diavel over there, where 15,000 miles, it needs a timing kit. You have to replace the belts, make sure you check all the lifters and you know, anything else that's going to go along with it. Just make sure that it's that's running right. Now, that's a pretty expensive service. That bike's actually pretty easy to do it on. I will probably do that one myself, and probably by the time I get 15,000 miles on that bike, it will probably be out of warranty, so I'll either sell it or do it myself. It's really not that big of a deal. It'll take me an hour or two to do it, and we'll call it a day. Clutches, the run-of-the-mill stuff, it's pretty straightforward. I'll do most of it. There isn't almost anything that I can't do on these bikes, except like rebuild the transmissions and stuff like that. But again, because I don't have the presses and the special tools to do such a thing, and rather than me not being an expert in that area, I will just pay someone that is an expert in that area to know that it is actually done correctly. It's going to take them half the time. I know they're going to have the tools. I know they're going to have the quality parts to do it and complete the job 100% correctly. One thing as you learn and get wiser and older, sometimes it's just easier to pay someone to do that has the resources to get the job done of what needs to be done. And it'll come out a lot better than if you're trying to, you know, do it all yourself. You just got to sometimes tuck your pride in a little bit, and trust me, the outcome is always going to be a little bit better. But make sure you put it into the hands of somebody that has a good reputation so that you don't get hosed on the back end and you're like, damn, now I have to pay twice. So that is something a little bit different than me. I don't know if it doesn't really matter if it's other YouTubers, that whole bought, built phrase scenario, it's whatever. It doesn't matter who bought it, who built it. The fact of the matter that it's mine or it's yours, and you enjoy it and you have fun doing it and riding it and tinkering on it. And I actually like to do some of these things. I enjoy tinkering and doing the maintenance on these bikes, and even when they break, that's part of owning them. That's part of having them. It's part of beating on them. That's part of just the entire experience. So if I didn't like it, I would have such a big toolbox with, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars of tools in it for me to work on my Trans Am or my Corvette or any of the motorcycles that I have, you know, here behind me. And nonetheless, when I have to help out a friend or a family member, I can also do that and help and save them a few bucks rather than going to their local mechanic and getting hosed or paying whatever it is that they have to pay. And I can, you know, do it a little bit and help out and return a good favor, because family has always done wonderful things for me, and that's the least that I can do if I have the ability to do so, because obviously they don't. That's why they're going to a specialist. So I wanted to share some insight about that. Yes, I actually do almost all my own maintenance on it. All of these toolboxes and tools are not here for show. I use all of them, and I figured I would share that with you guys and let you know, how did all these bikes get kept up and well maintained? Well, they get well maintained and kept up here in the Speedbug garage. But But I think that's going to conclude it here for today's video. I hope this video was informative. If you're looking for a project yourself, get it out, tackle it, check it out. If you're unsure, look it up, but take a little bit of gamble, but don't push too far in it. And if you're worried you're going to strip something out or anything like that, call someone and ask them for advice. It can't help. You can always keep learning. You can always keep learning, and life will never stop teaching you. So again, I hope this has been informative. I hope you guys like what you saw. Don't forget to check me out here on Instagram at The Speedbug, same name here as YouTube, and we'll see you here for some more episodes here on The Speedbug channel. Deuces.